today I get an email that the blame lies fully upon me, and they have decided to both give me a championship penalty and to reset my SR, as you can see. Hello everyone, OSW-Sim-Sports here. Sometimes in sim racing and in life in general, the best way to overcome an annoying setback is to just prove a point. Not really to anyone else, but just to yourself. Because proving this point to yourself can fill you with newfound confidence, which you can then use for a fresh start. And so I gave myself the challenge of starting a few races at the back on the Qatar 40 minutes multiclass race, which is always carnage, and if I could prove to myself that I could keep it clean in here, yeah, there's nothing really to worry about. So here we go for the first race start. I messed up the audio, so no sound for this one. It will be back in the second and the third race. In the start we are of course always looking for space. I would very much prefer to go tight here in the hairpin, and as you can see it instantly pays off as there is tons of room and just people crashing out. And we have essentially already gained 10 positions. So yeah, very good start. Car is still fully clean, zero contact, as there is a big spin in front of us and we have to take avoiding action, but still the car is clean, no problems here. As a lap or two later, we arrive to this incident, Beamer going wide. I obviously have a ton more speed and than him now coming out of the corner, so I get into his draft. I go on the outside and honestly I pretty much have him cleared before we even arrive at the braking zone, but yeah, look what happens here. He just completely outbrakes himself, hits me, and from here I thought I would be good, but no, there was a second car spinning out and he just killed me. So yeah, very nice, big damage on the car. Not the best of starts for this challenge, but yeah, what can you do? As I put a cheeky nice good job in the chat and looked very annoyed during the repairs, but yeah, I was just trying to recover the race from this position and maybe benefit from some people spinning out. But the last thing I wanted to do is have any more accidents, and especially me causing the accidents. So yeah, I was just trying to keep my nose clean and not cause any shit. As we are getting passed by a bunch of LMPs, and I don't know, I was looking at the LMP on the right hand side. I missed my braking point, I had to take evasive action and I just spearhead this Ferrari in front of me. Very sorry to this guy, because later, as you can see here, he gets spun by the BMW, and yeah, from there on out his race was pretty much fucked. That was 150 million% my fault, and yeah, I'm sorry for that situation. I would have loved to call it just an incident, but it just wasn't. It was just my fuck up. But we end the race in 13th position. Honestly, still pretty good considering the damage we had and that we had to stay in the pit lane for about a minute. As you can see, I'm pretty annoyed with myself. You know, like, not the best of starts. But alright, it's all fine, we move on. We did gain a bunch of safety ratings, so we're now back in gold. But we did lose some driver rank, but I don't really care about that. And here we go into race number 2. This time there were a little bit more GT cars in the lobby, so there are 28 cars on the grid. As we go into the start, we get a pretty decent start as we get side by side with the Porky here. And I just want to go as far to the inside as possible, and as you can see, the Lambo has the same idea and decides to cut me off a little bit, but no problem, zero contact. As we are now coming side by side into this tight left-hander, so I decide to give plenty of space, which pays off really amazingly as I now get to pass the Lamborghini, and I am now side by side with the Ford. As into the braking zone, the Ford is a little bit of a woozy, while the Lambo is really brave on the brakes, and thus I come out second best. And still the pack is extremely close here, so if anyone makes like a slight mistake like here, we can instantly take advantage of it. And look how close the pack here is together in the slowest section of the track, as we are now nearing the end of the first lap. And as you can see in the damage on the bottom right hand side of the screen, we still have a completely clean car. So yeah, this was basically the best start we could have hoped for. As the beam on the inside kills the Porsche, and here starts to run me wide, and for which the game decides to give me an illegal overtake, so I have to yield the position back to him. And look here, I fully have the right to space here, but he just runs me wide like I'm not there. I have to take evasive action, and as I get a track limits evaluation, I have to yield the position. Honestly, this is stuff that they should 100% look at, because this is ripe for abuse. And I don't mean look at the reports of players submitting them. No, I mean Studio 397 actually changing some of their systems so they would be less open for abuse from other players. As we are overtaken again into the hairpin by the Lamborghini of Mr. Notorious. But as you can see, this time, this lap, he is very cautious on the brakes, and we managed to close back up the gap again to 0.2 of a second. If he gives me the space here, I will go past, and yeah, you can see he's weaving a bit, defending weird, and I run into him very slightly. Small contact, it gives me a little bit of bumper damage, and here we are side by side 3 wide. But as I am on the inside, I should just hold my defensive line here and be fine. Now I have a Ford of Mr. Urban to my side here, and he is firmly in my draft. He's at just 0.1 of a second at the start of the straight, so he should be able to place a nice attack here. Obviously I go defensive on the inside into the hairpin, give him plenty of space here. I even have to slow the car down a little bit more, which yields the position to him, and we are now behind Mr. Urban. Now at the end of this same lap, I think it was, yeah, we get a very nice run out of the exit of the last corner. Actually basically the same move he pulled on us, but he doesn't go defensive on the inside, so I just say thank you very much. I'll break him into the T1, still side by side, and now I can go on the throttle a little bit quicker so I can close the door into the tight left hander, and we are now free to chase the Lamborghini ahead. And some laps later, we are now on the tail of this Lamborghini, who decides to run wide and essentially just gives me the position for free, as we see a Corvette giving us another freebie on the side. And again, a few laps later, we arrive at this pack of Mr. J. Burton and Mr. Chappelle, as the McLaren gets very squiggly coming out of the technical section. This allows us to go nicely alongside with Mr. Chappelle, and he decides to lift before we even arrive into the braking zone. And a lap later, we have now closed the gap to the BMW. And even though we have quite a bit of damage, the car still seems to be very quick in the straight line, as you can see. And as we are here on the inside, we should be able to take the position, but he goes very deep on the brakes. All props to him, very nice move, and he defends the position. But here he gets a little bit of slip, which allows me to get a better drive out of the corner, looking for position, and he opens the door to the inside, which is ideal obviously, but I don't really have my wheel alongside far enough for him, so I yield back, and he just misses his braking point. So yeah, he essentially also gives me a freebie, as we are again a few laps later closing up the gap to the Lamborghini of Mr. Felton ahead. Again, nice drive out of the last corner in his slipstream, going down the inside. He braves it round the outside, and actually we stay side by side, so I yield the position again. Let's see what kind of drives he gets out of the corner. I am of course in the slipstream, so I choose the inside again. I brake quite early to be sure to give him enough space, and I was a little bit slow coming out of this corner, but somehow he went way too wide and I just passed him. And now a few laps later again, we have caught up to this BMW. And honestly, I don't know what he was doing here, because look at it. He just moves over for me. And yeah, he even yields and concedes the position, after which he almost runs into me, but no contact. Everything's still good, and we are now in 11th position. And here in the penultimate lap I get a random freebie, and that allows me to take 10th position. And here we are in the final lap, crossing the finish line in 10th position, which we gained 18 positions, and everything was pretty much clean. There was a little bit of contact, as you can see, but yeah, no real big mistakes from me, no real fuck ups, no real big contact or any real damage. And so at this point I was already feeling pretty happy with my performances, so I went into the third race with high mood and yeah, just decided to go on the attack and see where it could bring me. Again, we are starting on the 28th position, and this time I am basically forced to the outside, and I just go looking for space again. As you can see, the space open up in front of me. I follow the Lexus on the outside, and it was a decent move, as we have now moved up 4 positions already in the first corner. As the Lexus of Mr. Pichichi gets a terrible exit, and we have now gained 5 positions. Now I thought I was pretty safe here, but of course you are never safe when racing, because look at this. Right ahead of me, bonk, he stops. I just couldn't react, and we have another car spinning in front of me, blocking the road essentially, so I have to do a massive lift. I even have to brake. And look at the car on the bottom right hand side. I have a bit of damage, but while this will slow me down, it doesn't mean that the tire is broken. This is currently on a warning state, so yeah, I can continue driving and hopefully still recover from here. As we get a massive slide down, coming out of the last corner into the straight, and we are now behind the BMW of Mr. Graventine. As the other BMW of Mr. Percy comes alongside, and he will be a returning character in this race, as he had extremely good pace and my car was quite damaged, so yeah, I was dropping quite a bit of pace on the straights. And as you can see, still many people making mistakes, carnage everywhere. And look at this situation, the view got blocked to a point where I could almost only see him at the last situation. I was very lucky to see the smoke coming off his tire, so I was somewhat prepared of what was about to come, but still it was a very close call. As we do our best to get into the slipstream of the Lambo before we head to the straight, and we absolutely managed to do so. And we are side by side here into the last corner, and I'm a little bit braver on the brakes. He does manage to fight back for the position, but I thought it was clean. And on the exit of the corner, he just decides to floor it, run into my side, and he just... So yeah, I thought that was 100% not my mistake. As they are going argy-bargy going into T1, this obviously costing them a ton of time. But there is no space on the outside here, so I have to yield a little bit. I go up the inside as there's an LMP coming on the outside here. We are on the inside here, so even if we are a little bit behind, we can still catch up. But he bravely defends around the outside and keeps his position. But here he runs a little bit too wide, which gives me more speed and gives me the inside here for the upcoming corner. He doesn't think better of it, he still tries to defend the position, runs me a little bit wide here. Nothing really major, but as I had a much better exit as him, I get the position done. And as behind me they are fighting, in front the BMW goes off and he gets it into a nice spin. Luckily I was able to pass him without having to lift. And we are now at the end of the race, as I wasn't sadly able to make up any more positions from this 11th position, as the LMP2 does LMP2 things at the end of the race here. And yeah, here we go, another 11th position, pretty clean I would say. We did have some big damage, but honestly I thought it was pretty much unavoidable. And at this point I had already gained so many positions in a clean way that the confidence in my personal racecraft was restored. Now, if you like this format in which I cover multiple races in a single video in a bit quicker pace, please do let me know in the comments or by leaving a like. And if you haven't already done so, consider subscribing. Thank you. With that out of the way, I have been OSW-Sim-Sports, and I hope you have a fantastic day.